scrutinize how you're investing your time. But if you were to finish the sentence for you, you don't have to answer it out loud. The problem with my schedule is blank. Just take a minute. Write down an answer to that. The problem with my schedule is blank. And write that down. You'll do that on the drink of Diet Dr. Pepper. We'll go through all three of those in the hour bar. Yes, I used to be an alcoholic. And I used to drink a lot of beer like that too. Before Jesus. And I have about 12.2 seconds left. Alright. I'd love to hear what a couple of you wrote with your sentence. The problem with my schedule is...
There's no routine.
There's no routine. Changes. What else? What's else right? Conflicting appointments.
I'm unable to prioritize the way I want. There is too much of what I
Okay. What else?
Poor management.
Well, I don't stick to it.
That's what I was going to say. I don't follow my schedule.
I don't stick to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's too much in my schedule?
Too much of my schedule. All of those are valid things because all of you are feeling tensions. There's things about your time you can control and there's things that you can't control. We're going to talk about some of those. And so we're going to get into time. And so with this, I want to give you a couple of verses of scripture that really speak to the importance of time. Ephesians 5, verses 15 to 17. It's from the ESV. It says, look carefully then at how you walk, not as unwise but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Maybe you want to write this one down as well. Psalm 90, verse 12. So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. And Colossians 4:5 says, walk in wisdom toward others. Walk in wisdom towards outsiders, making the best use of your time. So Ephesians 5, 15, 17, Psalm 90, verse 12, and then Colossians 4, verse 5. See, because all of us, and somebody mentioned this, is on one side over here, we all have these priorities. Explicit or implicit. I've either said it or I've felt it. All of us have priorities. And we get busy in life, that gets really clouded, doesn't it? Because I got priorities, but then I got reality. And I got this gap. And what you wrote with your sentence, the problem with my schedule is, it generally fell into this gap. Correct? There's that gap. Here's what I want my life to be, but here's what it really is. Here's what I would wish it would be, but here's how my days work out. That's the tension we all live in. I got a lot of idea, not enough time. Or you could be the pendulum swinging on the other side of it. I got more time than idea, and I'm just lazy. I mean, if we're going to be real, that's just the reality of sometimes where it goes. Some of you are too much in your time, and some of you are too lazy with your time. And it's just, but we go in seasons, don't we? We get these times where, like, I feel I'm being productive, and I'm getting after it. Other times, we're like, I didn't want to get out of bed. Like a week. But we get these pendulums. But this gap right here. But a lot of our priorities aren't really priorities. They're good intentions. And so if I were to give you an example, I used to, before the church world, before getting into this elevation thing, and I was a college professor. My background is in sports medicine. I was a physical therapist. I was in that end of things. And so I used to teach college at Gardner-Webb University. I was the director of the sports medicine major. And I used to teach all the classes on anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, all that stuff. And I used to teach nutrition classes as well. And so I can teach you about macronutrients and micronutrients. And I could tell you the importance of vegetables in your diet and how valuable they are to the body. And I could tell you why, and I could give you all the answers. I value it, but is it a priority to me? Well, how many vegetables do I eat in a month? Couple? I ate a vegetable last week.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously, I ate broccoli last Thursday. True story. I can tell you all day long that vegetables are a priority to me. But there's a problem with my priority. I'm not living it. I'm not living my priorities. Isn't that the tension we feel with our time? I want my priorities to be this, but here's what I got. And it creates this tension, this duplicity inside of us that we feel like we're double-minded. Like, God, I want to do all these awesome things for your glory, but here's what I'm doing. And it's the gap. It's the gap between priorities and reality, and this is the place that we fall in. Because for the vast majority, we don't need more time. We need to better prioritize our life.
That's good.
It's not that we need more time. And again, you got to apply this. This isn't a broad sweep across everybody in this room. But I think for the vast majority, it's not how much time I have, it's how I'm investing the time that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so much easier to focus on what I can't control rather than control what I can. It's easy to look at the factors that I have no control in, my boss, my job, these things, da-da-da. Those are realities. And it's oftentimes we'll look at the things we can't control rather than assuming the control over the things we have with our time. Does that make sense? And then, if I live in the I don't have enough time long enough, here's how I want to say this. Living in I don't have enough time will never give you more time. If I live in I don't have enough time, will never give you more time. Living there will never give you more time. Which is why there's sometimes this cathartic thing of like, oh, I hate it when that happens. Does it make you feel any better when you complain? So why do we do it? But it's easy to say, I never have enough time, I never have enough time. And it's not bad to acknowledge the reality of the tension you're feeling. But if you live there, you never get more time. You'll never change. Because generally it's the thing I don't have any control over, so I throw my hands up in the universal sign of surrender. I can't change it anyway, so why even try? Time kills us. So for you, what steals your time? I want you to take about a minute and a half on your notebook. And you can keep these, by the way. You can put your name in it. You can write on it. You can draw pictures in it. Put your shopping list in it. Write love notes to your loved one. Write a note to me. Not your loved one, but you can write a note to me. Here's the first thing I want you to make a list of what steals your time. What steals your time? What steals it? Make a list. What steals it? But another 37 seconds. My number in high school. 37. All right. So, I'd love to hear from a few people what you wrote. Just give us a. What is it? Netflix? That was funny. I was making a list of what I might hear. That wasn't one of them. Netflix. What else?
Dollar bill.
Dollar bill? Sports.
Family. Family.
Family.
Social media.
Social media.
Work.
Sleep. What's that? Sleep. Work. Work. Traffic. Maybe you hear something else you'd add to your list. Because you got to know what the, because here's the reality. If you're investing stuff, if you're looking at your bank account and you knew you had let's say you knew you had $5,000 in there today, and you go look tomorrow and you got $4,200 and you didn't use your ATM card, and you didn't think anything came out, what are you going to do with your bank account? You're going to figure out where the money's going. Where is your money being stolen? You're losing time. And we got to figure out where it's being stolen. What else? Okay. Yep. Very good. What else? Chores.
Impulsive social events.
Impulsive social events. Party! I just translated for you all. I got the gift of interpretation. That's like the husband and wife sitting down and say, we have intense fellowship. You fight! Where else? Couple more. I want to hear a few more.
Vegging out.
Too much TV?
Vegging out.
Vegging out. Procrastination. Homework. Alright, look at your list. So maybe you heard a few other things that were added. Look at your list. How many of those things are within your control and outside of your control? How many are outside your control? Are most of them within your control or outside of your control? Okay, who's stealing your time?
You asked the question, the problem with my schedule.
I didn't give you that answer. You're smart if you ended up there. But the reality is, if we look at it, what's stealing our time isn't things outside of our control. The majority of things that we steal, that steal our time, are within our control, and it's us. We're kind of hijacking our time. Now, I do want to make a quick little detour here with this. There is a time. Let me take 2 steps back. There's this famous story of Abraham Lincoln, and they asked him how long would it take him to chop down a tree. Well, he said it'd probably take about 3 hours. He said I'd sharpen my axe for about 2.5, and then I'd cut for about 30 minutes. And there is a time of rest. There is a time to sharpen your axe. And there's a difference between vegging out and resting. It's a biblical principle of a Sabbath. There is a biblical principle of letting your mind rest. Some of you, the reason you're ineffective 7 days is because you're not giving yourself a Sabbath.
That's good.
And so the problem isn't that you're too busy. The problem is that you're not getting any rest.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's a difference between being idle and resting. And so, but as you look at your life, you're like, but Larry, but Larry, you don't know my schedule. Yes, I don't know your schedule. What you've got to figure out how to do is take the biblical principle of rest and overlay it into your schedule. And it will look different for every person in here. The single person that's in college, their rest habits are going to be much different than the single mom. Right? It's going to be different. And so that's where there's seasons of life. But what you've got to understand is, I am responsible for the time that God gave me. Because whose time is it ultimately? God gave it to you. So when we talk about gifts in 2 weeks, and resources, finances in 3 weeks, you need to know that every good and perfect gift comes from above.
Yes.
Your time is one of them. It's allotted to you and appointed to you, and it's appropriated to you. We want to be faithful with what God has given us by investing it in the right places.
Right.
It is not wasting God's time to rest. It is honoring God with what He's giving you to rest. He said, everything I made is good. I'm going to take a little bit of a rest right now. And so there's a biblical principle of rest. And so make a category of here. Where are you resting? What does it look like for you to rest? Rest maybe is 20 minutes of uninterrupted silence. And for every one of you, you'd answer that rest differently. But there's a place to sharpen your axe.
Yeah.
Because I can go to town for 3 hours chopping a tree, but I'm getting my axe pretty dull. If I just stop and sharpen my axe, I can be so much more effective. And so, priorities, reality, wasting, control. Who's in control of my time? A certain part of it me, a certain part that I'm not in control of. Because I can tell my boss, you know, this whole like 8:30 a.m. thing is really not like working for me. And so I'm feeling like I wanted to control my schedule a little bit more. You know, my campus pastor told me that I didn't take care of schedule anymore. Be fired. I mean, you could be jobless and have a whole lot more time. But that's a certain amount of stuff that you can't control. We're going to talk about what we can control here. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to make another list. We're going to make a few lists tonight. I want this to be work. Because we're not going to solve the problem of time tonight. We want to get you thinking about how you're investing your time. So, what are your priorities? I want you to make a list of your priorities. And I would run it through these filters here. I'll help you with this. Run it through these filters. What's important to God should be important to me. So you talk about your priorities. What's important to God should be important to me. What's important to my family? What's important to me? So if you're looking through these 3 lenses, 3 filters with your time, what's important to God? What's important to my family? What's important to me? So priorities. What are your priorities? Another 12 seconds. So if you were to make a list of your priorities today, what you're doing, and you do it again in a week, probably about 80% of it would be the same. Things shift. Sometimes something might have happened today that made your heart sensitive towards something, and now that goes up the priority list because your mind and your heart's on it. It's kind of like if you're looking for a car and you really want a red car, guess what you see on the road? Red cars all over. Wow, I've never seen so many red cars. It's like, oh look, everywhere I go, I see a red car. And they've always been there. You just become more aware of it. And so your priorities change over time. The other part about priorities, and this is the part that when we get into scheduling in just a minute, is where is your space to just think? Because priorities are a progressive revelation. If you were to sit down off the top of your head and listen things up, awesome. But now if you really spend more time thinking about it, talking to other people about it, now you get greater understanding of actually what that means. So priorities. Spend more time with my son. Awesome. It's a great priority, isn't it? But now if I really think about it, wow, if I really gain greater understanding, no, my priority isn't just to spend more time with my son. The priority is to spend what kind of time do I want to spend with my son? So the priority now goes to, here's the thing, I see my son, he's really struggling with confidence in certain situations. Because if he puts himself in an environment where he feels a little overwhelmed, he kind of shuts down. So now my priority isn't necessarily spending time with him, my priority is developing confidence in him.
That's good.
Do you see how you get a better understanding of your priorities the deeper you get with it?
Wow.
But where are you taking the space to think about the priority? It's easy to make a list of family. Awesome, that's my priority. What does that mean? Everyone in the room could write down what that means, and we'd have 50 different answers. All 50 might be the right answer, but what's the thing underneath the thing? What's the real answer? So because what I want to go back to, the most important resource you'll ever have is time. How you invest it determines impact. I can spend time with my son, but not change his confidence.
That's good.
So do I want to make an impact with my son, or just want to spend time with my son? It's about impact. If you can understand priorities, now you can begin to make an impact. Priority, I want to make an influence on my coworker. What does that mean? Okay, so I want to get to know their story, find out their insecurities, so I can start speaking to them in their life. Impact. So you need to make the connection between priorities, time, impact. Because the win isn't just time, the win is impact. Because I can spend time with my wife. That's awesome. But at the end of spending time with my wife, does she feel like she's getting more love? Or am I just spending time and crossing it off my list? Impact. It's about impact. So, go back. Look at your priorities now. What's the impact you want to make with whatever you wrote? Does that make sense? Whatever you wrote, maybe just take one or two of them. What's the impact you want to make with that thing? Okay? About 7.8 seconds on. You want to meat? Remember, I told you I need veggies. I'm saying meat, y'all. Meat. For the Lord down for meat. Biblical. Prodigal son came home, they didn't even have a veggie sandwich. Killed a fatted calf. Biblical to eat meat when you celebrate. So, this should change your world. Because if you can just get past priority and get into impact, now it's not obligation or just spending time. It's changing something, it's investing in something.
That's right.
God wants to use you with your time to invest in something. You have the ability to impact people, processes, things, and culture for God's glory.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a difference between just spending time with something and a difference in changing something. God wants you to be a change agent. He wants you to make an impact.
Yeah.
Priorities. Deeper than that. Impact. What's the impact? So I'd love to hear somebody, hey, here's the priority you wrote, but when I really got into it, here's the impact I want to make around it. Give a couple people to sit, tell me what you wrote. This is the participatory part.
Walking to school and then like my impact was to like be efficient and do it
Okay. So you have some kind of level of excellence you want to bring to it. Okay. If you and I were in a coaching session, I would want to so we're gonna have a coaching session real time. So are you in a class by yourself? Is it an online class?
No.
So you're in a class with the students. Why do you think God might have you in that room with these other students? What does it mean to make an impact on the students that are in the classroom? Okay, show them. Absolutely. What else? What else might we want God wants you to do to make an impact on those other students? And show them. What else? Tell them. Get to know them. Develop relationships with them. And so that's where when you think about whatever atmospheres God puts you into to invest your time, what does He want you to do with that? Is that helpful? Because now you've got to get someone coaching you on the impact you're supposed to make. Because some of us, with our time, we just want to survive rather than thrive. And you're never making an impact when you're in survival mode. Survival mode will never make an impact. Now, there are times in life where you're in and you just got to protect the cut. It's just like, I got cut, I got to wait till the next round. And so if you're in a relationship that's painful and it's hurtful, maybe the best thing to do is just to protect yourself from the cut. And when those things happen, you got to protect the cut. But now you got another round. The bell just rung. Let's get back up. Let's get in the game. And so, what else did somebody else write down about impact? Priority, impact.
Spend time with my wife. Thanks to be. Cut off the TV. Read. Pray with each other. Do spiritual couple that we need to.
Okay. Wonderful. So a deeper spiritual connection with your wife. Okay. So what will that produce in between you two and in your heart and in the household?
I'll be become a better spiritual leader. To lead our family in a way that our family grows. That we will have that impact to the family.
Wonderful. So now if I'm coaching you in that, because I love that, you're hitting on something that's key. It's not just spending time with my wife, it's what I want to happen as a byproduct of it. But now I'm going to be like, okay, so you want to become a better spiritual leader for your home with your wife. Okay. So, priority. Spiritual. So, what I'm working on with you now is how do you do that? Show her. But where are you developing that? Yourself. But now what I would want to connect to that is now who are the people that are around you? How can you invest your time better to become that spiritual leader? That makes sense? So is it some other people? Who's mentoring you? Who's coming alongside you? And so when we get down into, okay, impact. So I just coached him on how to get in his classroom and make friends, but I feel a little awkward doing that. Who's going to help him get better at that? That's where we got to include other people in our priorities. Because priorities in isolation often don't experience the growth that God wants. So priorities, impact. But now when you really get aggressive with, so to use a sport analogy, hey, basketball. So you can tell I didn't know those. So look at me, short and lumpy. Hey, my family, I'd be the center. That's like lollipop girl. Be like dominating. So let's say. So my priority is to become a great basketball player. Okay. A couple ways I could go about training to become a great basketball player. Like I can think about it. I'm thinking about it. How good am I going to get? I'm thinking about it. I could play some Nintendo 64. He's heating up! There you go, NBA Jam. That's NBA Jam. Yeah, he's on fire! He's heating up! About 5 people do that. I could buy a basketball and walk around with it. It's my ball, imaginary. What else could I do though? I could play. I could get a video. Go to YouTube. I could get a coach. I could go to a camp. I could get on it. Oh, you mean I don't have to do it by myself?
That's good.
I mean, I don't have to do it. If you're driving at your priorities by yourself, you'll never get to the fullness of it. And so we'll tie a bow around this. We're going to pull it back in a little bit. But I want you thinking in terms of priorities. It's easy to make a statement. It's hard to live a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It is really easy to write a statement. It is hard to live a lifestyle. And so when we talk about time, we're talking about a lifestyle. We're talking about an investment mentality that is tenacious and saying, I'm going to become the best at that. So if you're going to invest in stocks. You're going to be kind of choosy in what stocks you're going to put your money in. Are you going to pick the stock that says, hey, we need your help, invest in us? Not so much, I'm going with Google. Because you would invest in something that's going to get a great return. Okay. What kind of return is someone going to get in you?
Yeah.
And what kind of return are you going to get on the investments you make? That's why it can't be done in isolation, because otherwise you're just investing in yourself. And nobody else is. If nobody else is investing in you, how much of a return are you going to get? Priorities. Impact. Getting to layers deeper other than just writing a statement, it's living a lifestyle. Is this helpful? Are we getting somewhere with this? Priorities. Okay? What's that?
How from where you come from, ways you to allow yourself not to isolate yourself. Sometimes you have like this ego that gets in the way of allowing others to get that.
Completely. I'm the best at everything, just ask me. I'm the smartest guy in the room, just ask me. It is hard to open up and say, I need help with this. That's hard, but it's also hard to stop long enough to say, what do I need help with? It's hard to say, really, what do I want my life to be? So if for those of you that I'm going to speak to the men because I'm a man, I don't know what it's like to be a woman. You know what it's like to be a man? Every man would say, I want to be a better husband. And that would be a priority that's on their list. But how many men are actually scheduling their life that they're becoming a better husband? Is it an idea? Like, I want to be a better husband. Hey, turn on Netflix. But if I want to be a better husband, it's not based upon how much I know about vegetables. It's how many vegetables I'm going to eat. It's about it's all in the application. It's like Peyton, as Pastor Steve said. And so, priorities, impact. Okay, so where I want to take this to is I want to look a little bit at scheduling. Before we get there, write this verse down. 1 Corinthians 10:23. 1 Corinthians 10:23. This is just a great verse when we talk about time, scheduling, priorities, all those things. It says, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but not everything is constructive. Meaning, you can do everything, but you probably don't need to do everything. Everything's permissible. Not everything is beneficial. Yep, you can spend your time doing that. May not be the best use of your time. And so we talk about making an impact. The things that are under impact are not the things outside of our control. It is the things within our control that we don't maximize, or that we allow. What will derail your impact is not the influences outside of you, it's the things that you have within your control. As we talk about this thing, this area here, where our time is being wasted, right in here, this little gap between priorities and reality. And so what I want to talk right now is about scheduling. I want to give you a very, very basic framework for scheduling. Because here's the disconnect I see in most of our lives. We've got priorities over here and schedule over here, and the two never intersect. Because if I were to look at what you've done for the past month, and I were to make a list of your priorities based upon what you've been doing, would you be pleased with the results? There's the rub. It's here's how life is lived, and here's what I want it to be. It's priorities and schedule never intersecting. And I never have enough time to do the things that I want to do. That's a lot of the struggle. It's like, I get priorities. I need to... My oldest brother, Lonnie, he passed away 12 years ago of cancer. And I went back to Minnesota to help him die. And so I spent the last week and a half on he was living on this earth with him. And as he's dying, all of his regrets were, I wish I would have spent more time with you. I wish I would have spent more time with Mom. I wish I would have spent more time with the family. I wish I would have spent more time. He didn't say, boy, I wish I would have spent more time at work. He didn't say, boy, I wish I would have spent more time watching TV. And that's where if we're a bank account that, I no one would want to know, like, hey, if you looked at, like, hey, how many days you got left over? I don't know, let me pull my hat. I don't think any of us would want that. But once that number is a little bit closer, what I saw in my brother's life is every moment became so much more precious. What if life were lived where every moment were precious, and we didn't have to wait till that time to understand the value of those moments? That's why time is the most precious resource. You'll never get more of it. How you invest it determines the impact you will make. Priorities, schedule, the overlay. So how do you live a life that brings your schedule and your priorities together? They're integrated. That's the challenge, isn't it? And so I want to give you just a way of thinking about your schedule. This is not the way, but this is helpful for me, and it's a framework that I work with that I would want to pass on to you that gets you thinking. Some of you are going to take this and you're going to run down and you're going to get crazy with it. Others of you, this is a springboard to something else. Some of you, it will be great tomorrow morning. You go right back to life as normal. You won't even think about anything that's happening. It's all good. Because I'm investing, and it's not up to me the return that I get. And so when people say, I don't know if I can trust the church with my money. It's not about the church. It's about you trusting God. What they do with it is on them.
That's right.
It's not on me. I got to trust God, so I'm going to give because God said give. I'm going to give to you because God said give to you. What you do with the investment's up to you. It's not up to me. But I know some of you, I'm going to see people in heaven because of the investment I made in you.
Yes.
Ooh, I want to get in on that. I want to sow into that. I want to have more, because in heaven it talks about having jewels on your crown. I think jewels represent the lives that have been touched on earth
That's right.
through the ministry that God gave you. I want to have a lot of jewels on my crown in heaven. And I know that some of the jewels that are going to be on your crown, I was a part of that.
Amen.
You know what fires me up? That fires me up, y'all. And so, in this room, this is one of the biggest rooms I'll ever speak to. How many people is this room going to impact in this University City area?
Yeah.
This is thousands and thousands of people that have the potential to be impacted in. That's why this is one of the biggest rooms I'll ever speak to. So, here's a simple way of looking at calendaring. This is a way, it's not the way. And so, if I were to look at Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and they have not added another day into the week. Still got 24 hours in a day. Here's what I do. This might be helpful for you. I think in terms of blocks. Because what I have had to learn how to do is you've got a early AM, late AM. So it'll make sense. I'll come back and describe it in a second. Lunch, early, afternoon, late, afternoon. We got dinner, or where I come from, supper, early, evening, late, evening. All right, so this is a way of looking at the intersection of schedule and priorities. Like my form here, rocking, left, right? Some of you could borrow that. Feel free to use it, just give me credit for it. And so this is block scheduling. Block scheduling. Early AM, late AM. Lunch, early afternoon, late afternoon. Dinner, early evening, late evening. Blocks that work for me, you can change them to whatever you want. Here's what I try to approach life with from a scheduling standpoint. This helps because in terms of blocks, it's placeholders in your schedule to accomplish your priorities. Blocks. It's placeholders to accomplish your priorities. That's what I look at. It is placeholders to accomplish your priorities. Because the reality is, there are blocks that are daily. What would some daily blocks? Reading the Bible. Eating lunch. Daily lunch, sleep.
Shower.
There are daily things that happen every single day. Okay? What would fall into your categories of daily blocks? Sometimes you don't get lunch. Okay? Most times. But there are things that are going to happen daily. There are things that happen weekly. Maybe it happens once a week or twice a week, like going to the gym. This is where, so when you get into block scheduling, what it helps you do is say, what are my priorities for this week? Because what happens is, if you don't, you will either control your schedule or your schedule will control you.
Yeah. That's right.
If your schedule is controlling you, you are not accomplishing your priorities. Which is going to win? You or your schedule? If you let your schedule tell you what to do, you'll never accomplish your priorities. You won't. You'll always have more idea and not enough time. So blocks. So here's what I do with this thing. So there are, let me go through the blocks and then we'll start plugging in. There's weekly blocks. Okay, there's monthly blocks, like once a month kind of things. Date night. Movie night. What would be some monthly things? Bowling night. E-group. I don't know. Things that happen once a month kind of thing.
Pay your bills.
What's that?
I said pay your bills.
Pay your bills. Excellent. Paying your bills. You mean I could actually schedule when I do my bills? Whoa, what does Dusty speak of? Maybe there's a block each month called Blue Space. It's a term we use around the office. It's based upon a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue, because it's this marketing book. It's a great book. The premise is everybody's in the red water, where all the sharks are eating each other. But there's blue ocean somewhere else that nobody's ever been. Find the blue ocean because there's the creativity. Where's the space in your calendar each month to just think? To just think. Where is it your time? Now, maybe not a daily thing. Maybe. But the monthly thing. Maybe it's a quarterly thing. Maybe it's a family vacation. A night out. It's a stay away. Maybe it's oil changes. You mean I can actually schedule when I put my oil? Yep, you can. Yearly blocks, vacations, lawnmower services, getting your car inspected. I don't know, you just kind of figure out, so those are just blocks. So where this becomes effective to me. So if I want to have meaningful time with my son this week, where am I going to build it in? Because a block is got to be, I know that there's certain blocks that are going to be full. So there are blocks I do not have control over. Okay, late morning, probably full. Lunchtime, that's open. Early afternoon, that's full. Okay, but I got dinner. I got early evening, I got late evening. So, Friday's my day off, so I got this block open. So when you start looking at your week, at your month, at your quarter, if your priority is to invest in your son developing his confidence, what am I going to do 3 Fridays from now in that late morning? Now I write in Corbin, and I'm going to take him whitewater rafting. Because now I'm actually thinking about, I think that's spelling it. But now I'm making a connection between my priorities and my schedule. Do you see how this opens up a myriad of possibilities? Because you don't look at it just from a day. Because some of you are like, well, I got a calendar on my phone. No, you don't. You just got a place to put stuff you're going to forget anyway. Because you're not telling your time what to do.
That's right.
You're simply putting in appointments that somebody else has given you. That's not a schedule. That is not a schedule. A schedule is where you tell your time what it's going to do, based upon your priorities. So somebody give me a priority that you wrote down. So we'll go back to the example of the wife. Honey, I'm too busy for us to spend time together. Okay, you guys sit down together. You look at your calendar. Where's the block? Because the block is this. It's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. As much as you can. Somebody dies, you might have to negotiate some things. But where are you going to put the... Okay, what night is our date night, honey? What's our block of time? And so for me, one of my priorities is to stay healthy. So I work out. I try to at least do 5 days a week. Here's where I have to get creative. I've got 4 kids, 8 and under. I'm married. I'm busy like every single one of you. But what I've got to figure out is some of the blocks where I go work out. All right, so I know that every night, this non-negotiable time for me, unless I'm out of the city, is early evening. This is dad time. Because this is bath time. This is reading time. This is homework time. Non-negotiable. So what I need to do is, guess where I'm going to the gym? Wednesdays, after they go to bed. So it means Dad's not going to the gym until 9:30. Is it what I'd want? Oh, I could get such more effective workout every minute. So it's figuring out your priorities of what you want to accomplish and building it into a schedule that will actually accomplish. What are your priorities? What's the impact you want to make? How do you start building it into your block? Make sense? What questions before we move on to the next thing? Give me some thoughts on that. Some feedback on that, or some questions, any of that.
I have one. So would you incorporate like your kids' activity in your block? And I mean,
I would.
it's like, well,
And that's where, because the reality is right now with 4 kids below the age of 8, this season of life, my schedule will look drastically different than it will in 15 years.
Yeah.
There's a season I'm in right now so this is where you've got to push off fun for priority. Fun for impact. I love golfing and I love hunting. But since we moved to Charlotte, my clubs have still been in the garage. And I've been deer hunting once in 8 years. Why? Because in this season, that's got the priority list, that's very low. But what kills my impact is when Dad comes home lazy here, and he's not making an impact with his kids, and he's simply spending time with his kids. Now the very thing I wanted to make an impact is being eroded because I'm not actually making an impact. I'm just there in body. Because, guess what happens? I get distracted because I just need to return this text message real quick. Hold up, Corbin, quiet. Hello? Yeah, you're important, Corbin, hold on. Yeah, how you doing, man? What's up? So you know what distracts me from making an impact with my kids right here?
Yeah.
Is this. So how important is this block of time with you? Is it important to the point where I'm going to take my phone and turn it off and put it over here?
That's right.
It all depends on the impact I want to make. This is the hardest thing in the world for me. I'm addicted to this thing. It's like crack. Just another hit. I get distracted because in the evening, late evening here, it's much easier to just look at ESPN and let's read Viking chat forums, see how about the Vikings. Or I mentioned a couple weeks ago to a group of people, like I've been like studying handguns. I love guns. Fan of it. I'm like a fan of guns. And so I would spend hours like researching a new Glock 32S. It's the new model, about a year old. It's a new subcompact gun. It's a 45 caliber ACP with 10 in the mag, but it's still a subcompact. Oh yeah, and then you get your 230 grain, federal Hydra-Shock bullets that will like, oh yeah. It's important in the kingdom. You don't know this? Come on. This is gonna save people. This is safe. Come on. But I can look up and an hour's gone by and I've wasted my time. Because I'm distracted by these little foxes that sneak in and steal my attention.
that's right.
So what distractions steal your attention that keep you from making an impact? So my hardest thing is I can teach you and I can help you get a block schedule. No. Because where this really starts to get power is you start taking this out several weeks and several months. So you know that on the 3rd Friday of every month, you're going to give yourself a time block of Friday, late afternoon of about 2 hours just called you. And you've worked it. And you're going to give yourself time. Like, that's my time. Where I'm just going to go into a bookstore, get a good cup of coffee and read a book. If that's your thing, go to town. Right? I'm going to the gun range.
That's right.
And so, to me, when we talked earlier about that rest, where's the space in your schedule for you to rest? Now, if you're a single mom, maybe that's 15 minutes. But are you scheduling it? Because your priority, it's not a priority based upon how much time you have with it, but it's how much intentionality you bring to it. Because if we would all look at our schedules, well, I spend more time at work. Does that mean work is more important than my family? No. That's dumb. It's called being employed. So I don't need to feel guilty about it, but priority is based upon intentionality, not quantity.
It's good.
It's the intentionality that determines whether or not it's a priority.
Yeah.
And where the intentionality comes in is you have spent the time and you said, this is what's important to me, and I'm going to build it into my schedule. It might be once a month, but it's a priority. So maybe one of the things, the priorities with you would be, I want to develop greater relationships with my family in the year of 2015. Because my brother and my sister and my parents were a little estranged. Maybe 2015, one of your priorities is, I want to make this relationship stronger. So where's the block that once a month you make that phone call? That phone call. You know the phone call. So, but if it never makes your schedule, guess what happens with 2015? Yeah, I need to spend more time with my family. Because you were never intentional in actually building it into your schedule. It is not a priority unless it intersects your schedule. It's not about the amount of time, but it's about the intentionality. What are the things that you really want to make an impact with? You can accomplish every single one of those through intentionality. And it's not about how much time. Some of them, it's a daily occurrence. So for some of you, the greatest block thing is, I just don't have enough time to read your Bible. Yeah, you do. I was talking with one of the moms in here earlier. Their day starts at 4 a.m. Why? Because they realize if they're going to get that in, they've got to start at 4. So I don't know what that means to you. You have enough time to accomplish everything you want. But the other part, one of the most effective things you can do with your schedule to make a greater impact is to actually look at your schedule. Here's what you've done for the last 3 weeks. What do you need to eliminate? What do you need to get rid of? Cancel the Netflix subscription. I'm not saying you should do that. But what I am saying is, here's one of my biggest struggles. How would I say this? One of my biggest challenges is who I'm going to invest in. Because I get a lot of people, hey, do you want to go to lunch? I'd love to have you mentor me. This is not like, hey, Larry's awesome. Please don't hear me say that. But one of my hardest things in the world is to tell somebody else no. So I was like, I would love for you to mentor me, and it's like, I'd love to spend time. And I was like, but if I say yes to that, I say no to you. That's hard for me. I don't like telling people I don't want to spend time with them. But where as I'm growing, it's investment. I want to invest in people that are going to accomplish the goals that we want to have together. And I can talk to the guy from Washington, D.C. who wants me to mentor him. I'd love to just get an hour with you every week. No. You come down, we'll go to lunch. But no, I'm going to take that hour, I'm going to invest in you in this room. And so that's hard for me. That's just a reality of how I just got to say no to some things to say yes to more things. And so maybe it means I'm not going to have the season tickets to that thing. Or maybe it means I'm not going to. I don't know what you need to eliminate so you can be effective. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll close it down with questions, is this. Is this helpful at all?
Yeah.
We live in a world that we overcommit, we underproduce, and we feel guilty. And since I've been a part of Elevation Church, what I've seen is I've seen leaders sign up to become leaders within the church, and then it not work out, but we're more at fault than they are. Follow me. If your schedule is completely packed and I give you another thing on top of it, you got a full plate, and I got this piece of meat I need to throw on top of it. There's no space in your plate. What I want to help people learn how to do is to be effective, to make an impact. And what that means is actually sitting down with somebody and saying, what actually do you want to accomplish? What is the impact? What's the priorities of your life? But what happens oftentimes in the church world is we get really busy, and when we think we need to eliminate something, what's one of the first things we eliminate? Church world. Church world. I think it should be one of the last things we take off the plate.
That's right.
Not the first.
Amen.
It's the same thing about, because it's time, talent, and treasures. Because what happens is, with most people, when their finances become short, what do they stop giving first? Time. God teaches about a first fruits. And a first fruits is a lifestyle. And a first fruits means I'm going to give God my very best in every area. He's going to get my best time, my best talent, and my treasure. He's going to get the first fruits of that. So if I give God first, the very first anything, do I always have something to give to Him? Yes. Where we get it flipped is when we feel like we don't have enough left. Well, I paid all my bills and I don't have enough to tithe. It's because you're using a leftovers mentality rather than first fruits.
Wow, that's right.
I don't want your leftovers. I'm sure your meal was good, but I don't want whatever's left.
That's right.
I want the first fruit. And so when you think about time, talent, treasures, I'm not talking about being a leader in the church right now. What I'm talking about is you leading yourself well. Personally, lead yourself well. Time, talent, treasures. What are you investing in? I would want you to prioritize your life around God. The thing Jesus died for is the thing we should live for.
Good.
The redemptive plan of the world is His church. There's no backup plan. There's no plan B just in case it doesn't work. Pull the lever and like something else happens. Is it the church? Jesus died for His church. The thing He died for is the thing we should live for.
Yeah.
I should see Jesus reflected in my calendar. I should see Jesus reflected in my priorities. I should see Jesus reflected in my finances. That's called a lifestyle. And so we talk about time, talent, and treasures. Give to God first rather than what's left. Make sense? Block scheduling. I'm going to close it down in just a minute for questions because I want to respect your time. But I hope this helps you. What I hope it allows you to do is to think in terms of, what are my priorities? Is it weekly? Is it daily? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Is it yearly? So maybe a priority is to maintain a great relationship with your family. So we're going to go on a once-a-year vacation together. Great. Build it in the block. We're going to take these 3 days in July, and we're going to do it. But if you don't do that in January, it'll never happen in July. So the reason I wanted to do this at the end of the year is we got 2015 beginning. You can spend a couple weeks here before we get into the new year playing with the block system, figuring out your priorities. But in order to accomplish your priorities, you've got to get rid of something too. So maybe getting rid of it is the procrastination. But you got to get rid of something to be able to make this happen. What questions might you have before we wrap it up and eat the rest of the sandwiches? I'll just take the meat out. Meat roll up. Any questions or thoughts? Yeah.
I used to teach this to 10-year-olds in school, and it really helped them not be stressed in school. But I'm a detail person, and I can overdose on detail. So any of you guys, I don't know if any of you all are like, I get lost in details and can't see the forest for the trees kind of person. That you have to also give to God and say, I'm not going to stress over that.
Completely.
Yeah, so that it's a balance. Most people aren't like me, but it's I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
Well, I understand the principle of this. I'm the most unbalanced person in the world. If I try to achieve a balance, I'm living in a place of flux, and that I feel horrible. To me, I'm going to be passionate, and I'm going to just give. I'm just going to run. But I figure out which direction I'm running. Where I get screwed up is I start running the wrong direction. I just start running around. But I'm running! Busy is running around. Busy. I'm busy. I'm really busy today. Effective is running forward. See the difference? Don't be busy. Be effective. Take my pulse here. That's a good visual. But you can't let this thing intimidate you, what she's saying. You can't let that intimidate you. You can't let that become your God. What other questions?
How do you say no? Man, I need that.
That's like a whole nother.
It is one of the hardest things in the world.
People pleasers.
Yeah, I'm a people pleaser. I don't want people being mad at me. I want people liking me. I'm serious. I do. I struggle with that. For me, you can work on learning how to say no better. That's part of it. But the bigger thing is to understand what you're saying yes to.
That's good.
If I understand what I'm saying yes to, it's really easy to say no.
Yeah.
And so, if I understand the importance of having Corbin time here, and I really understand what I'm saying yes to, when someone says, hey, LB, can you do that thing? Nope. I'm sorry, I can't. Because I got something more important to do. And so it's working on the language of how to say no, and that's absolutely all part of it. But I think if I really get a heart understanding of what I've said yes to, it's so much easier. Then I don't have to have the guilt walking away. Because sometimes I can say no and I walk away from like, gosh, I hate myself. Such a hoser. Man, you suck. but if I really understand what I'm saying yes to, I can walk over to my son and it's not. The only people I'll ever answer for in a meeting is pastor or my wife. And there's another one. They're not that important. I just said no. Example. Is that helpful though? Is focus on the yes. What am I saying yes to? Really understand it. And then it gives you an attitude of, I don't have to be apologetic behind what I've said yes to. I'm not going to feel bad about saying yes to that. No, I'm not going to feel bad about saying no. Because somebody else is called to do that, and it's not me. And if I were to step in the role, I'd be stealing an opportunity from somebody else that's created for that.
Yeah.
Man, may I not take somebody, rob somebody else of a blessing. And so that's also just being really in communicating it in such a way that people are like, oh yeah, that's true. That helps though. Great question. What else? Completely. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up? Is this helpful?
Yes.
What I'm going to challenge you to do, is, there's no homework with this, but if I were to give you homework, your homework would be, is to go back to your list of priorities, but really dig down and understand the impact you want to make with it. I want to spend more time with my family this year. Why? What do you want to accomplish with that? Because if it's simply spending time with them, wrong priority. If it's making an impact in them, now we're getting closer. What's the impact God actually wants you to make? Getting even closer. No, so how do you open up a window to actually make that kind of impact? Now we're getting in the zip code. Now we're getting on the street. It's all about getting a better understanding of the impact you want to make in it. It's not about spending time, it's about impacting with your time. So that would be one thing I'd give you to do. Second thing is now start looking at a block calendar if this was appealing to you. Weekly, monthly, quarterly, laid out for the whole year. And then what you start doing is you put the non-negotiables. I said in March, I'm going to, every Friday afternoon, I'm going to do yoga. I don't want to do yoga. Okay, so you got to know yourself well. If you're easy to say no to something, who's going to help you so that you don't say no?
That's good.
Who's going to help hold you accountable so you don't start compromising in those small areas? It builds a discipline. So those would be the homework pieces I would give you. Along with that, is now start writing some names next to those priorities, some people that can actually mentor you along the way. Because the impact you want to have is a progressive revelation. You don't get the fullness of it from day one, but you gain greater understanding as you go. So I've used this example, some of you have heard me say it many times. Corbin, he's 8, he's in 3rd grade right now, and I drop him and Dale and her 6-year-old off at school every morning. And I drop them off on the sidewalk, and as they're walking into the school, it's a long sidewalk, and they're going to turn and walk up it towards the school. I'm screaming out the window, I love you! Like literally every day I'm the obnoxious parent yelling at my kids. And I'm like, hey Corbin, come here. Hey, I love you! So when he is in kindergarten, he's like, Daddy, I love you! Now he's in 3rd grade, like, I know the day is coming. He's like, Dad, can you drop me off a block? We're like, boy, I will carry you into school like a baby if you just don't. But as an 8-year-old, he says every day, Dad, I love you. Someday, the day he graduates from high school, he's going to look at me and say, Dad, I love you. On his wedding day, he's going to look at me and say, Dad, I love you. When he holds his firstborn child, he's going to look at me and say, Dad, I love you.
Yeah.
He's used the same word his whole life, but his understanding of it has drastically changed over time. That's progressive revelation. God will give you a progressive revelation of the priorities He gave you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
great.
only comes through time, through conversation, through Holy Spirit revelation. Progressive revelation of the priorities that God has given you. I want my son to love me. What does that actually mean? How do I develop it? How do I create that? God shows me some things, but now I got to get around some other people. Like, how'd you do that? What'd you do well? What would you do different? I'm getting some people to help me with my priorities. Because I can't be so arrogant to think that I got the priority figured out and I can do it all by myself. It's a progressive revelation. Helpful? In 2 weeks, we'll come back. We're going to do the next one. Talent. If you haven't taken this, or rather, you don't have to read the book, but there's a test that goes with this Strength Finders. So talent. So what I want is, if you have not taken this test, tell Barbara Urch. I will buy the book for you. So we will pay the cost. It's $15 a piece. If you haven't taken this, you need to walk in that night with your test results. And so it's a simple test. You take it online. It gives you the results immediately. So when we talk about talent, I'm not going to necessarily look at spiritual gifting. We'll talk about it. But I want to talk about strengths.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the strengths that you have and how you're utilizing those to advance the kingdom and to make an impact with your time. Wow, I could actually take my strengths and intersect that with my schedule to accomplish my priorities. Oh my gosh, this is awesome! Unbelievable! And so we're going to do that in 2 weeks, and then week 3 we'll get into treasures, talk about finances. And so I'm going to pray. We'll say amen. If you need to scoot, please do. Let Barbara know. She'll get you hooked up and get you the bookity book. What I would love to hear is anytime somebody makes an investment in you, there's a principle of return on investment. So Jesus heals all these lepers, 10 of them, but only 2 of them. Was it 1 or 2? 2? Was it 1? No, there's 2. Is it 2 lepers? I think it's 2. Yeah. 2. But there's a biblical principle of only 2 of them. There's a biblical principle only 2 of them actually came back and were grateful for it. And so anytime somebody makes an investment in you, just let them know the impact it made. If God spoke something to you, I would love to hear it, because now what will help me is when I teach this again, it'll help me know what I can resonate more.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and so, Father, thank you for these people. Thank you for this time that we've invested tonight. We've not wasted it, but we've invested it.
Yeah.
I pray for a great return on these people. I pray that they get a tenacity about their time. I pray that they become relentless in their priorities.
That's right.
But not just to list a priority, but to make an impact. An impact in this world, and to make an impact in their families, in their children, in their spouses, in their co-workers, in the people in their community, the people at the gym. God, may these people not just walk through life, but may they realize that on their way to the grocery store, there's an impact to be made there.
That's right.
They're not just wasting their time getting groceries, they're making an impact in the people in the grocery store.
Good.
So, Father, thank you for the harvest that you've given us. The harvest is plentiful, and the workers are few. But God, these few workers are moving out of this place empowered, believing that the best is yet to come. May they do the hard work of sitting down, understanding priorities and impact. May they do the hard work of building out a schedule that actually reflects their priorities. Give them the ability to persevere, the discipline to see it through, but also the courage to invite someone else in to know when they won't do it. Yes. They need some accountability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody who wants to make an impact seeks accountability. We declare it in your name.
Yes.
Amen.